Hello and welcome to Pod of the Dead. I am your host Nicholas, and with me as always are the two final girls, Stephanie and Natasha.
Hi guys.
Hello.
On today's episode, we are doing a special Gaiden episode for summer break. So on today's episode, we will be giving out some of our personal picks of films that we think that maybe you missed out on. Maybe our tastes would point you in the direction of. So today's episode is a pretty relaxed, fit, laid back kind of episode where I'm going to try and sell the two girls on 5 movies, and they are going to try and sell me on 5 movies, and in the process, you will be sold 15 movies.
Yes.
I like that.
So, without any further ado, we'll start giving out some things. Unless you girls have anything you'd like to bring up real quick.
No, I
No?
don't.
Not really.
All right, but
Mm-mm.
actually, right before we do that, this is our Gaiden episode, so it's a little side episode. If this is the first episode you've listened to of us, we are usually a horror film club. Every week, we watch a new horror film, and we kind of go over the making of it a little bit, talk about our likes, dislikes of the film, give it our overall rating as a podcast, and then give out homework for next week so we can all watch it together and hopefully talk about it in the following week. Not hopefully, we will talk about it. Hopefully
Yes.
you will watch it and
Yeah,
you can go along the journey and tell us how right or wrong we are.
correct.
So there's no spoilers this episode, so feel free to stick around. And we're going to get right into this. So for my first film, I broke my list up into like genres almost. So my first film that I'm bringing up is a zombie film. So this is a zombie film that came out in 2008. It's called Pontypool. It's directed by Bruce McDonald. He's more notably, he's done like a couple episodes of the show Bitten. And he did 9 episodes of a show called Creep Out. Beyond that, I couldn't really find much else about him doing any other movies and stuff like that. But this came out in 2008. What the movie basically is about is it's set in Canada, and there's a radio host of a talk show in the town of Pontypool. He works with a producer and technician when reports of a violent crowd are trying to invade a doctor's office downtown. And then the radio receives confusing information about a possible infection in Pontypool. So most of the film takes place in a radio studio as news reports are coming in and all this stuff, and the story starts to unfold. It was actually pretty interesting. I think that most people that have seen, like, your standard zombie films, maybe you've watched The Walking Dead or you've watched Dawn of the Dead or whatever, like whatever your big ones are, even like Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead, things like that.
Okay.
I think this is a nice little like twist. It's not super horrific. It's not the sadness. I'll throw that one out there. Like, it's not that.
Keep throwing it out there.
Oh yeah, if you want to watch some horrific stuff, but it's I want to say it's like under 2 hours. It's a pretty quick watch, pretty interesting. Like, it had me like, all right, what's going on? Like, check this out.
Okay.
And it keeps going. I was like, all right, because I just kept hearing about it, and I was like, I'll check it out. I'll bite, and I was not let down. So Pontypool.
Pontypool. Okay. That's a
It's
name.
such a fun name. Yeah, I like the name. I want to watch it just so I can keep hearing them say Pontypool.
And it's like the radio host and stuff. It's like a shock jock radio host. So he's like all edgy. It's like an older guy that basically got kicked out of the big city because he was too risque.
Okay.
So it's like if Howard Stern had zombies attacking him.
Kinda, yeah. If
Okay,
if Howard Stern wore a cowboy hat in Canada.
There you go.
I like it.
That's lovely.
All right, well, I'll go. I'm realizing as I was doing this list, I tried to break mine up into different categories and then realized that I kind of have a thing. So
That doesn't surprise. That doesn't surprise us, Tasha. It's like usually what,
Shocking.
cult films and
face smashing. Lots of face smashing.
Yeah,
Face
there you
smashing.
go. Yeah.
I will say, as I'm looking at this, there are neither of either of those things.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, up
Yeah.
those numbers, girl.
Yeah.
Nice. That's surprising.
I was looking at movies because with this podcast, we've reviewed a lot of my favorite movies. So I tried to go off the beaten path. And then I found that I like 2000s remakes of 70s movies.
Okay.
So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Ryan Reynolds Amityville Horror from, I think it was 2003. I thought I had the date.
You're in the ballpark.
2006. I think it was 2006. But I've never seen the original one. This is my Amityville Horror.
You've never continue. You're the one talking right now.
I told you that I like remakes. I feel like because if they're the old ones, I'm not going to like them as much. But my introduction to the Amityville Horror was the Ryan Reynolds version, and I really liked it. If you don't know about it, it's seemingly like the house is evil. There was like a murder. The family was murdered before they moved in. And then Ryan Reynolds, the dad, starts to hear things, see things, kind of essentially go crazy and kill his family also. This one's directed by Andrew Douglas. I'm not sure what else he's done, but so it's probably the one possession movie that I actually like because it's like an evil house, not necessarily like an entity is ever discussed, which I really like. The fact that I watched this in theaters for the first time in middle school, I suppose, high school. And it was one of the first movies that I saw that was based on, quote unquote, based on true events. So that gave me a little like added scare to it, like knowing that this house exists and stuff like that. I always thought was really cool.
Ryan Reynolds is a murderer.
Exactly. So I like the 70s. I like the 70s vibe to it, but the acting I feel like is better. The story was tight. I have no reference, obviously, but just as far as I know of 70s movies, I like the 2000s version.
Okay,
I would suggest you check out the original one, if anything, just to like compare and contrast. I do that stuff all the time, even if I know there's an old version of it, and I'm like, I'm not into watching a 50s horror film. It's like, okay, I'll watch the original thing, and I watch it, and I'm like, well, I marked that off my list.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe one of these days, but for now, I like him as George Lutz.
The original's the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably slow as fuck.
Exactly.
The lead in it, though, is really good, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's like a really big deal fucking actor that was the lead in it.
In the original?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to pause for time. La-di-da. Everybody
Internet's slow.
Everyone's yelling at me. 1979 was when the original came out, and it is... Oh, God damn it.
Almost there. Cast, come on.
It doesn't matter. It's giving me everybody else that it could fucking possibly give me. Oh, this is fucking horrible.
Really? Why isn't he like number one?
James Brolin. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Wow.
Josh Brolin, the guy.
Dad.
Oh.
Yeah, it's his dad. Yeah, James Brolin. Jesus Christ. I apologize. I've thrown my fucking cred card away a long time ago, so don't even.
Okay.
Right.
So
what you got, Steph?
it's hard to choose which one to go first on my list. I know none of them are in any particular order, but I guess I'll just go from the top down. It was hard for me to decide these because we have covered a lot of movies that we've all liked, and then we don't want to keep regurgitating the same stuff, obviously. And it's things that I'm going out on a limb and trying to kind of doing what Nick's doing here and trying to find stuff that's specific for a specific reason. And I'm only covering one movie that's a duplicate. So we're just going to get that out of the way here that we've already covered. And I will scream from the rooftops this movie every single day, every single time somebody asks me what horror movie they should watch. This is the one.
Is it The Exorcist?
No, Jesus. That movie is fucking horrible.
Is it Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
No, which was weird. Speaking of Buffy, we're sitting on the couch the other day and Noelle's like, we're talking about horror movies. And she was like, I watched Buffy and I actually kind of liked it. And I was like, you're fucking crazy. That movie's trash. And she's like, but it was entertaining. I'm like, how? Right. Okay. But she's a teenager, so it's fine. Do you guys want to guess what movie I'm going to be reiterating?
Oh, I
here?
know what it is.
Yeah,
what is
Trick or Treat.
It is Trick or Treat. So
Come on.
I felt felt so guilty when I was like, okay, this movie I just have to constantly like reiterate. So I am doing that. Trick or Treat is a 2007 film directed by Michael Dougherty. It has popular actors like Brian Cox. You'll know him from like The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And then in Secession. So that's a big show he's in right now. And then Anna Paquin from True Blood, she plays Sookie Stackhouse. And so, and then she also played Rogue in the X-Men. So I thought that was kind of cool. The basic thing about this movie, if you've never heard of it, it did not, I think we went over it. It didn't come out in theaters like it was supposed to. And now you can kind of get it around the holidays now. And it is 5 interwoven stories that occur around Halloween. That's the basis around it. It is kind of like a kind of funny, has its gory moments. It's about Sam, basically our Halloween spirit, and he's the little guy you see in Spirit Halloween everywhere. That's like the little guy in the sack with orange, and he's carrying a popsicle, or not popsicle, a sucker that's like a pumpkin. And I fucking love him. He's so cute. We have numerous Sams in our house. And he's great. So the reason why I picked this was because it's the best Halloween themed focused storyline, in my opinion. So like a lot of horror movies are, that we've covered, don't necessarily focus directly on Halloween itself. It's just scary to be scary or whatever the theme is. And this is like the quintessential Halloween movie to me. It covers all kinds of like creatures and witches and like it's the embodiment of the spirit of Halloween, literally. And so I love that about it. It's just really well made. I loved it. IMDb gave it a 6.7 and out of a 10, and that's actually pretty high for a horror movie, because every time we go on here and we do horror movies and we look at like the ratings, some of them are pretty low comparison than you would expect, because I would think they were better, but this one's a 6.7. So I was really impressed with that. And so if you've never heard of Trick or Treat and you haven't seen the cute little orange guy with the sack on his head, then you should probably fucking go watch this, because it's really fun. I love the movie. I rewatch it every year. So
and we did cover it on a past episode and everything, but that was also back during the episodes that I wouldn't suggest people go back and listen to so much.
Yeah, when we first started,
when we were getting our footing and taking way too many notes and all that stuff. But it's good.
It's cute. Yeah. Well, and also this is behind the curtain thing. It was actually the first movie that we recorded, and then it never recorded. So then we had to go back.
We had to do that.
We forgot to hit record. It was our first podcast episode. It didn't fucking record. So we came back like 2 weeks later, I think it was. And we were like, I guess we'll reiterate this. And I was like, this is so sad, because this is probably my favorite horror movie, just because it's so cute and gross in the same vein. And Tasha would be like, yes, too much chocolate vomiting. And
oh, not enough, baby. Not enough.
I stand by that, and I will always stand by that.
But yeah, so that would be my first suggestion. So.
All right, so my next theme or genre or whatever is a werewolf film. I don't think there's a lot of good werewolf films, in my opinion, outside of like An American Werewolf in London, and you get some stuff in the 80s, like a little bit here and there, but not a lot.
I think Underworld covers werewolves decently.
I don't like those movies.
I know you don't, but I think they do cover them decently. So.
But this came out in 2002, directed by Neil Marshall, who is known for doing The Descent. If you're familiar with that film, the girls going spelunking and they come into contact with some like underground dwelling people creature things.
That sounds terrifying.
This movie is called Dog Soldiers. And what this film is about is during a routine nighttime training mission in the Scottish Highlands, a small squad of British soldiers expected to rendezvous with a special ops unit instead find a bloody massacre with a sole survivor. The savage attackers of the special ops team return, and the men are rescued by a zoologist who identifies what hunts them as werewolves. Without transportation or communications, the group is forced to retreat to a farmhouse to wait for the full moon to disappear at dawn. So it's literally like we're like badass Green Berets, and that's nothing, because the coolest looking fucking werewolves I have ever seen in my life are hunting them down, and they are creepy as fuck, and it's awesome. But I don't think a lot of, especially nowadays, a lot of werewolf films and stuff is just like, just CGI it. And I there's nothing I hate more than that. Especially like this film has so much like prosthetic, like they're real tall, lanky, like gnarly looking werewolves. So I'm all about that. But yeah, if you've ever seen The Descent, this is like The Descent with werewolves. It's just like try to survive. Like it's that same idea, like kind of film. We will be covering it soon-ish.
Okay.
I'd have to bring up the schedule. I know it's in the next like handful of movies, but that's kind of why I'm bringing it up. Maybe get some people get out there a little earlier before it's given out for homework. But yeah, Dog Soldiers, check it out.
It's a weird name, but I mean, it makes sense. So
it's pretty on the nose.
It is kind of
on the snout. Would you say?
Literally.
I'm a
werewolf.
Let myself out.
Well, it's my turn now.
Okay.
This was one that I did try to stay in line with. Like I wanted a found footage film or something like that because I really like those movies. But a lot of times the acting can be terrible. It's hard to tell. Like a really good found footage movie, they seem like they're not acting. If that makes sense. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
So I picked the original Paranormal Activity for my next one. What I thought was really cool about this one was there were no scripts for this movie. It was all just like, something's going to happen. This is kind of how we want you to react to it, which I thought was really cool, which means that like the majority of it was all natural. So there was no like trying to act like you're not acting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. So the original one.
They are reacting, not acting.
Right. So the original one is directed and written by Oren Peli. And it's a Blumhouse film. I think this was probably one of my first Blumhouse movies that I had seen also. And I didn't watch this until my 30s. So I was really late to the game.
I have not seen this movie.
I haven't either.
Really? Oh,
yeah, no.
All right. Well, I highly recommend it. You guys, I don't know if you guys will like it as much as I did. I'm there for the jump scares. And this movie is jump scares to like all the way. Listen to it watch it in the dark, listen to it really loud. And for me, it's an adrenaline rush. And I think you can find it on most streaming platforms.
Probably.
I think I own it. I think I bought like a 5-pack years ago at like a used shop. And I was like, I'll get around to that. And I just never have.
Okay. I think I've only seen the first 2 and maybe an installment later on where they're like in a farmhouse. We just kind of stumbled upon it. I didn't realize what it was until after the movie was over. But the first 2 I can definitely vouch for. And they're different. So it's like a family moving into a new house. The first couple are with younger couples. They're moving in. Weird stuff's happening, obviously. So they're just setting up cameras around the house to see what they can capture. So in some of the scenes, you're watching them through a still camera, like in their bedroom or whatever. In some of the scenes, you're watching from their perspective, seeing what happened like in the kitchen or something like that. I really like it, but I can only vouch for the first couple.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of the movie, obviously. I think most people probably heard of it, but I've never actually watched it. So
I honestly think the only reason I never watched it is when it was coming out, I had already seen so much found footage.
Yeah.
That I'd just been like, it's another found footage film. I'm good, but I will come back and check it out eventually. I think it's on our list for the year, to be honest.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this movie's going to have Nick throwing his arms up at me. I'm just going to let you guys know this now. So this is a constant debate in our house about this movie.
I already know.
What is it?
Is it Blade?
It is.
God damn it.
We argue about this movie all the time. So I was trying to find, like, I am a huge vampire reader, movie watcher, TV show lover. Like, vampires are my jam. They have been since it was probably right for me to even like vampires. And I like them in all facets, whether they're the bad guys or they're the romantic interests. Like in Twilight, I like all of everything and above. So Blade was a movie I actually saw in the drive-in when I was a kid, and it came out in 1998. If y'all have lived under a fucking rock, you probably haven't seen this, but maybe you're new to the vampire genre and just have never checked this movie out. I have watched it recently again. It is made by Stephen Norrington, who also did The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I don't know if he did the directing of that, but he was associated with the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as well. Popular actors that are in this was Wesley Snipes, Stephen Dwarf, and Chris Christopherson, which I believe he is a country music singer.
Yeah. Yeah, he was
and
he was the original guy in what's that fucking Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga movie?
oh yeah,
He's the original.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Maya just
Star
watched
is
it.
Born.
The Star is Born. Yeah. So this story, if you don't know about it, it is a superhero horror film. Nick always says it's not a horror film, but it is a horror film.
No, I don't say it's not a horror film. I say it's an action horror film.
Okay, there you go.
It's not a horror action film.
Okay, there you go. So the basis of it is a half vampire, half mortal man becomes a protector of the mortal race while slaying evil vampires. It is very bloody, like legitimately within the first 5 minutes of watching this movie, there's blood raining. You've probably seen that in the previews. So if you don't like gore, then you probably won't like this movie. IMDb gave it a 7.1, which again for a horror movie is high. It is a superhero horror film, vampire film, and that's the reason why I recommended it. I love this movie. I've seen it multiple times. It's a trilogy. The third one just happens to have Ryan Reynolds in it, and I liked the series. The first one's definitely the best, I think. The second one's really weird. But it's definitely something that I think that if you like vampires and you love action films and you think Wesley Snipes is a fucking badass, because he totally is in this, then you should go see that, because even it being in 1998, it still holds up. So I was surprised, like with some of the cinematography, whatever that they had to put in, the ending has a few spots that are kind of meh, because the technology wasn't what it is now, but the plot line and everything I think holds up really, really well, and I absolutely love that movie. So I am going to say Blade.
Little side note about that, you were talking about like the second and third one. If memory serves correct, the second one, the special effects makeup and stuff in that, I believe, is done by Guillermo del Toro.
Okay.
So,
cool.
like, if I remember
Awesome.
correctly, the second one is the one where like their lower jaw splits.
Yes.
It's like these weird
Yeah.
vampires that have like this crazy ass mouth.
Yep.
I'm 99% sure that he did the special effects makeup for those.
Yeah. So,
But
have you seen that movie, Tasha?
I have. Yeah, I watched
Okay,
it
I
when
was
I
gonna
was
say.
younger.
I was
Grandma,
gonna say, yeah. I was
Grandma
like,
Headley loved those fucking movies.
Yeah,
they're
that's
good.
like from my childhood.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, honey.
So, you said you like found footage, Tasha? My next movie is a found footage film. This is, without a doubt, in my book, the greatest found footage film,
Okay.
and my favorite ghost film. Ghost
Okay.
using it,
Loosely.
ghost, supernatural. It's weird.
What are you doing with your hands?
I don't know.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
He's about to
Is this
tell
what
us.
This is
Go
what
ahead.
ghosts do.
Yes.
Yeah. When he
Yes.
says ghost, I'm thinking he's talking about Demi Moore and our Patrick Swayze,
yeah.
and that's the horror movie we're
This
talking
movie
about.
is Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg. No,
Yeah.
it was horrifying, man. The pottery
Yeah.
scene.
I know.
No, this came out in 2008, directed by Joel Anderson, which is his only directorial effort, and it's called Lake Mungo.
Okay.
So Lake Mungo is, okay, I'm saying it's found footage, but it's a little more than that. It's actually more like a mockumentary. It's a fake documentary about a girl that goes missing, and her family is being interviewed because there's all these weird occurrences happening in the house post it. So what I've got here is Alice drowns while swimming, and her family begins experiencing inexplicable events in their home. The family hires a parapsychologist who investigates, unveiling Alice's secret double life and leads them all to Lake Mungo. It is a fucking trip of a film. It is extremely depressing. It's because you're watching it. Tasha, you'll love it. You love grief films.
She does.
Yeah.
You're watching this family deteriorate because of the loss of like a teenage child,
Okay.
and they're trying to come to terms with it while all this shit's fucking happening in the house. They're catching stuff on camera. Is it her? Is it this? All like finding journal entries about like this whole second life that she had. Like it's crazy. I remember coming upon it years and years ago because it was like one of those like I've got it behind me here. Where is it? It was an After Dark Horror Fest 4 release, so it was like 8 films to die for, and like they would put out some smaller independent movies. And I believe that this is Australian. It might be New Zealand. I'm really bad with that kind of stuff, but it's super good, super dark, like but it's not like gory and stuff like that. It's another one of those vibe films. Like you're not gonna be like, oh my god, that was scary, but it'll sit with you. And I remember watching it on a rainy day, and it's like in my fucking head. Like it's very embodies that. So Lake Mungo, I believe it's streaming like on Amazon or something like that. You can find it. It's just not easy to find, but it's out there. So if you're looking for something a little different that like really hits it, it blows me away too that this is this guy's only directorial effort.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like did like a little short film prior, put this out, and then never directed another thing. He's done like script writing and whatever, but yeah, this is it. So
okay, I probably never want to see that because that's a grief movie, and I'll just like be ripped apart by watching it. But I'm sure Tasha will be like, "This is the greatest movie I've ever seen."
I do want to see it.
I figured.
Where you and I differ the most.
I know, literally, I know.
I want to feel like dirt.
Yeah. I just need to cry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to go back to remake land.
Okay. Okay. Let's do it.
And my next one is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2003 with Jessica Biel.
Did you only go see movies in 2003 and 2006?
It's starting to seem like it.
It does.
Yeah, because so far all of mine are from that. And I'm realizing like there's an era. It's almost like a little nostalgia. Because like I said, some of my best, Midsummer, we've already done. I'm not going to talk about that one. Also, it's not for everybody. These are like...
You need some new metal with your horror films, some like disturbed playing in the background.
I don't know about disturbed, but let's do some post-hardcore movie, some screamo. That's I still live in that land a lot of times. But the one with Jessica Biel. Once again, I watched this just a couple years ago. Drew actually showed it to me. I don't think before then I had ever seen a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Really?
Since then I've seen this one and I've seen Leatherface. Both I really like. So Leatherface was a little honorable mention, I guess we'll throw that in there. But this one has Jessica Biel. I don't know if it's her first movie, but she's very young in it. It also has Mike Vogel and Jonathan Tucker in it. And I believe it follows the same storyline of group of kids in a van stumble upon a rusty old house that's just disgusting and chaos and murder ensues. This one is the goriest of the movies on my list. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a pretty nasty scene at the beginning where a woman shoots her face off in the back of the van and then that body just kind of
that shot's
lingers.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And then the body is just like a character for a while in the van, but I really liked it. This is your traditional like final girl, A then B then C type. I would consider it a slasher movie. I feel like Nick, you've said that it's not considered one.
It's not technically considered a slasher film because they're the ones happening upon the property and stuff like that.
Because they're not seeking them out.
Correct. It's one of those things like it's on the Mount Rushmore of horror like icons, but like if you think about like what is considered a slasher, I'm not the one saying it is or isn't, but this is where the argument lies.
Okay. Well, I consider it one because there's a lot of slashing going on.
I would too.
A lot of slashing and blade too. There's a lot of swords.
I know. That's true. And
so once again, I haven't seen the original. I also believe that one's from the 70s. Nick, have you? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen that movie a million times.
Is this one worth watching the original?
I'm always going to say watch the original just so you have like a frame of reference and stuff like that. This one's bloodier, like the remake's bloodier and stuff like that because for as horrifying and everything that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is known for in today's like zeitgeist of films and stuff like that, there's almost no blood in it. Like
I see.
It's more the grain of the film and how dirty the film feels and like all that than the actual like gore, because it's all like stuff happens, but you're not seeing like blood spray and heads getting blown
I
off
see.
like you do in the
That
newer
wasn't
ones.
until that wasn't until like the 2000s when
Yeah.
that started to
Yeah.
be popular.
Well, that's why I wonder, like, because if you think about a lot of the 70s movies we watched, none of them are like that. Like, it alludes to stuff, but it doesn't actually
Yeah.
show you a lot. Like, even The Exorcist alludes to some stuff, and yeah, she pukes up green pea soup or whatever, but like, overall, you don't see a lot of the stuff. And like, Alien, same thing.
You don't
So I'm
get
wondering if that was a
You
thing
don't
that they
get
just
that a
didn't
lot until
do.
the 80s and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Because like the sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then the sequel that comes out in the 80s, that one is super fucking bloody and super
really?
fucking gory and
Well,
weird.
That's what I keep like thinking about when we're talking like 70s does seem far tamer and slower, and then you get into the 80s and then it's like an explosion of just gore and blood and like
Yep.
that's
And then-
there's like they went the complete opposite
And
direction.
then like 1984 happens and you have the MPAA and they're like, we can't have all this stuff. And that's where
Gotcha.
films like Reanimator are like, fine, then we won't get rated. We're going to put all the dicks, all the titties, and all the guts and all the blood and stuff like that. But then your
Yeah.
big studio ones get tamed way down and get a
Yeah.
lot more edited.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, I did see that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one that Tasha's talking about. I saw it back when it came out, but I haven't seen it since then, so I don't know if it's still good and I like it or not. So
I went on a first date with someone to that movie. There was not a
Aw.
second date.
Aw. Was she grossed out and you were like, this was great? And she was like, no, it wasn't.
She couldn't hang.
Yeah. Okay, so my next movie, I'm picking it because it's a children's movie. It also happens to be the horror movie I watched the most as a child. I watched it repeatedly, like all the time. And I think we're covering this sometime this year. So I'm going to go with Little Monsters, which came out in 1989. And it is directed by Richard Greenberg. I didn't see anything else about this dude. Maybe I just didn't look deep enough, but popular actors were Fred Savage and Ben Savage. They're brothers in the movie. They're also brothers in real life. And then Howie Mandel, which is our guy that everybody knows of, he plays our monster in the movie. It is about a boy who discovers an incredible, gruesome world of monsters under his bed. And in the IMDb score is a 6. This is like a really cute movie for kids. It has like a little bit of cussing in it. It is rated like PG, but back then they didn't have PG-13. I think nowadays it'd be probably rated PG-13.
Yeah.
The monster makeup in this movie was phenomenal. I love the plot line. And I just really, for a kid's movie, if you're looking, like I know Gremlins is up there, we have a lot of different movies. And honestly, I like this one much better. I showed it to my kids when they were little. And I was talking to my daughter about it the other day. And she was like, is that the guy with the blue monster? And I was like, yeah. And literally, it's just under his bed. And then like this monster is just pulling fucking pranks and the kid's getting in trouble for it. And the whole movie's like this. And it's just really fun for kids. I think boys and girls can really enjoy it. I'm obviously a girl, so I liked it. But our main character is a guy. It's Ben Savage. And
it's Fred Savage.
Oh, Fred Savage, excuse me. Ben is the brother. So I really liked it and I would recommend it if you want your kids to watch a horror movie that's unique and definitely has really good monsters.
It has a pretty dark ending though.
It does. It is kind of scary.
If your kid is like real like about stuff like the bad guy in the movie, not to give anything away, it does get pretty dark at the end.
It does. And that's what I like.
Film.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. Cause I was like, it's not fluffy like some horror movies are for kids. It definitely gets a little dark and it is kind of creepy. And I always liked it because it did scare me as a kid. And I mean, I was pretty much of a pussy back then anyway, when it comes to movies, but I just think that for it being an 80s movie, it did extremely well on like its practical effects. So
yeah. I could see you double featuring this with like Beetlejuice and stuff like that. Like if one is okay for your kid, the other one would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very, very cute. I like it a lot. So okay.
I'll have to show that to Y.
Yeah.
I remember liking it as a kid. I haven't watched it in forever, but I do agree with. I remember the makeup being really fucking rad in it.
It is,
and it's not. Now, granted, I haven't seen this movie in probably 20 years. I don't remember it being cringy or anything.
Mm-mm.
Like it's not like what was that other one? It's not a horror film or anything, but what was it? Drop Dead Fred or whatever is like super fucking cringy.
Oh yeah.
But all right, for my next one, this is I think the most recent film, my newest film.
Okay.
It's a cult / sci-fi horror film.
Okay.
It's directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. They just go by like Benson and Moorhead. Their most notable stuff is they directed 4 episodes of the Loki television series and 2 episodes of the Moon Knight television series.
Cool.
This film came out in 2017 and it's called The Endless.
I've never heard of that.
This movie follows 2 brothers who receive a cryptic video message inspiring them to revisit the UFO death cult they escaped a decade earlier. Hoping to find the closure that they couldn't find as young men, they're forced to reconsider the cult's beliefs when confronted with unexplainable phenomena surrounding the camp. As the members prepare for the coming of a mysterious event, the brothers race to unravel the seemingly impossible truth before their lives become permanently entangled with the cult.
Okay.
I see Tasha is going to take down a note to watch the film.
Yeah, it's a cult movie.
I was going to ask you what the name was again.
Yes, it is. It's called The Endless.
The Endless. Okay.
They have made a few films. This is the only one of theirs that I've seen, but I guess they're all like loosely tied to each other, like in a universe. Not that like sequel or anything like that, but like things get kind of cross-mentioned and stuff like that.
Easter eggy.
Yeah, kind of like the stuff that you write and everything, where like they're referencing other things and whatnot.
Yep.
Yeah.
But this was one that I was like, I've heard about Benson and Moorhead, blah, blah, blah. This is the one. Okay, I'll check this one out. And then I watched it like on Hulu or something. And then I instantly just like ordered it. I was just like, that was fucking cool. Like, it was just like a cool horror film. It's a lot more of a talky one and like mystery and like, what the fuck is going on? But then it goes like way sideways at times. And I'm there for that kind of shit. It's definitely, it gets weird. Let's put it that way. In the sense of like weird stories, like old school, like unexplainable kind of stuff. It gets into that territory. And that like my love of stuff like Lovecraft and everything, like it gets into that kind of stuff. And
so that's
like,
how like this paranormal supernatural thing comes in.
Yeah, because they're like a UFO death cult. They think that they think something from the sky is going to, take them or whatever. Up. Yep.
Okay.
So, really cool. I believe I don't have it right in front of me, but I think that they also star in it too. I think that they're the main guys. I know that they star in their own stuff every once in a while. But yeah, The Endless, if you're looking for something just a little off the beaten path, I would highly suggest this. You like cult films or you like weird sci-fi, it kind of covers both those bases.
Okay. So how does it compare to like The Void?
The Void is a creature feature, sci-fi, weird
cult movie.
This is This is way more. This is them literally going to the compound and like becoming part of the cult again. Not becoming, but like, oh, it's been so long since you've been here, and like becoming part of it again, and like it gives you some weird vibes there. But
okay, cool. That sounds cool.
This is probably the newest one. It's called The Gift from 2015. It has Rebecca Hall and Jason Bateman in it as the 2 main characters. The supporting actor is Joel Edgerton, and he also wrote and directed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know
The Gift. Yeah. Joel Edgerton is also in the new series Dark Matter. Oddly enough, I don't really like him in that, but I really like him in this movie.
Okay.
And we know Rebecca Hall from The Night House. I think she's been in other things we've watched.
She's the lead in it, right?
Yep. Yeah. And then Jason Bateman. We all know Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
And he plays, so in this movie, he plays kind of that traditional Jason Bateman, like sarcastic ass, but like to the nth degree. So the story follows Jason Bateman and Rebecca Hall's characters, Simon and Robin, and they're a married couple. I think they just moved to a new house, and they've encountered Gordo, who is Joel's character and that's one of Simon's like old classmates or something like that. So there's a history there between the 2 guys, and Gordo starts to leave and starts to become like really intrusive, starts to leave gifts at their house, thus the name. The gifts get increasingly more disturbing.
Okay.
And their story arc starts to evolve from, this guy had a troubled past, is what Simon is telling his wife. He had a troubled past, he was just made fun of, bad things happened. But then you come to find out the story gets bigger. I don't want to say too much because there are a lot of twists and turns, and that's what I'm there for in this movie. Jason Bateman is a phenomenal actor. There's a lot of stuff that keeps you guessing throughout, which is my favorite part. Okay. So, and I really like invasion movies, so it ticks off that box too, where this isn't like your traditional someone's breaking in and causing wreaking havoc like Strangers, but it still gives you that vibe of somebody's here that's not supposed to be around. Somebody's invading our space that's not supposed to be here. And then Gordo just keeps appearing.
Like Stalker-ish?
Ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's from 2015. I think it's streamable on, I want to say Netflix.
Okay.
I highly recommend it.
Okay. Yeah. I never even heard of that. I haven't heard of a lot of these movies, so this has been interesting.
Same here.
Joel Edgerton, I know him mostly from, he plays in that movie Bright with Will Smith. He's like the orc cop or whatever.
Yeah.
He's that. And then he's also the lead in I believe it's an A24 film called It Comes at Night. He's like the lead in that. That movie's your mileage will vary in that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've seen that movie.
They're like
it's kind of like a
family,
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, family in a cabin. Yep, family cabin in the middle. Yeah.
People come and visit.
Yeah.
Dog, bad things happen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Dog.
Dog. Okay. Everything's dog.
Everything's coming up dog.
It is.
Or not coming up dog. Who knows?
Yeah. That's lovely. Okay. All right. So I think it's my turn here.
Yep.
So here I decided I was going to recommend a sequel that we probably won't ever cover. So I was trying to think of movies that could come after the other movies we've watched or that I've enjoyed. And Nick and I talk about this movie pretty regularly. So I'm going to go with Scream 2.
Oh.
So everybody talks about Scream and how great it is. And it is a really good movie. It's just a fun horror movie. If you haven't seen it and live under a fucking rock and don't know who Ghostface is, then I suggest that you probably don't watch any horror movies, but maybe go watch Scream, because that actually is really palatable for most people who are just new in general to horror movies. But I actually like, and this sounds horrible, I like Scream 2 better than Scream 1. And the only reason is because it's gorier and it has more jump scares. So I recently rewatched it after we watched Scream for the podcast, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it again. It came out in 1997. It's by Wes Craven, and the popular actors most people know if you've watched Scream. It's got Courtney Cox. She's Monica from Friends. We've got Nev Campbell, who was also in Wild Things. We have David Arquette, who was in Never Been Kissed. He was the brother in that movie. And basically, it's 2 years after the first series of murders, as Sydney acclaims to college life. She acclimates to college life. Someone donning, yes, the Ghostface costume begins a new string of killings. So basically, we're just reiterating another. They're just doing more killings. It's the same thing. That's what the whole fucking Scream universe is, basically. Somebody else deciding, hey, we're going to pick up where these other motherfuckers left off. And it's got a 6.3, so it's definitely not rated as high as the original, but I liked it as a sequel. A lot of times sequels are kind of disappointing in a lot of ways, especially if you think about they're just doing the same thing over. They are. But there's twists at the end, which Nick doesn't necessarily like the twist. I liked the twist, and I liked the way that this was college. The other one was high school. And you still got all the same characters. They get to build up on their personalities. You get to see all of that. And I really liked it. I actually had some jump scares even rewatching it. And I know I want to continue watching the Scream universe and see if I like the other movies that are subsequent to this at some point. But and I haven't seen the new ones, so I have no idea what those even entail other than who's in them. So yeah, I would suggest Scream 2.
That movie gets points for me because it's got Timothy Olyphant in it, and I always like Timothy Olyphant, and I'm a huge fan of what happens in the beginning of the movie. I'm not going to say anything. If you haven't seen Scream 2, I'm not going to ruin that, but I like how the beginning plays out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun. I like it. Okay, your last movie, honey.
All right. My last one is my hardcore horror fan, or my
Oh,
hardcore horror film. So if you go back to our episodes that came out in February for Foreign Film February or whatever,
Okay.
I may have dropped this title. This came out in 2008. Director Pascal Laguerre. It's a French horror film. It is Martyrs.
I knew it.
So Pascal Laguerre is more known in recent years of directing The Tall Man, which I believe has Jessica Biel in it as well.
Oh,
I believe. And Incident in a Ghostland, which I've not yet seen, but I've got it on my list. But Martyrs plays out with two young women who were both victims of abuse as children, embark on a bloody quest for revenge, only to find themselves plunged into a living hell of depravity. And this film is rough. There are not very many films that I have watched that when it ended, that I felt like I needed to shower with bleach. It is a very nihilistic movie. It is a very gory movie. It is a depressing movie, and it's all the better for it. It is a movie that I feel every horror fan should see. Not the remake. They did an American remake. Watch the French original from 2008. Yes, it's going to cross a lot of lines for you. But I do not believe that there is a more emotionally effective horror film that I have ever seen.
Okay.
Watching it there are so many what the fuck moments in this movie, and not in the sense of, yes, it is gory. And yes, it may be like, for some people, they may think it's gratuitous. But for me, it's just like, you just kind of sit there and you're like, oh my fucking God, what these people are going through. And then by the end of the film, you're just like, what? And then the fucking credits roll and you're like, I need church.
wow. That's saying a lot for you.
Yeah, no shit.
So if you've seen Inside, or even High Tension, this came out in that same grouping of films. This is one of those French extreme horror films or whatever.
Gotcha.
But this is a fucking must watch in my book. It is legitimately what I think of when it's like, what is a horror film? What is horrifying? It's like Martyrs. Straight up. So
Gotcha.
if you're looking for something to possibly cross your line, and there's obviously far worse films. I'm not saying that this is the worst film by leaps and bounds, but if you're looking for something, you've seen, maybe you've been on the ride with us. Maybe you've seen High Tension. Maybe, you saw Hostel when it came out, and you've watched Saw and all that stuff. And you're like, you know what? I need some more gush. I got something for you.
Great.
So there you go.
I'm not watching that ever. We've talked about it enough in our house that I'm just like, I am glad you like that movie, and I'm glad there are people who do, but
glad you like it.
I proudly wear my t-shirt that I got at fucking Horror Hound this past year.
Yeah. Ooh,
I remember you being so excited when you found that shirt.
Yeah, nobody makes merch for fucking Martyrs. I was so stoked.
Yeah. Hey, Tasha, what do you got?
My last film is a newer one. I was wrong. We're just going down the line. This one's from 2019. It's Jordan Peele's Us. Oh. Which is my favorite Jordan Peele movie.
Okay.
It stars Lupita Nyong'o, who is, I'm trying to think of what she's I know her mostly from this, but she's in the new A Quiet Place. She's the main character in that also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's her and her family going back to her childhood beachfront home. And she starts to get this unsettling feeling that something bad is going to happen. And then it's yet another kind of break-in movie. Four masked people come in to her home and start to wreak havoc. So it's her and her family trying to survive them. But once again, this does have a lot of twists in it. It says when the masks come off, the family is horrified to learn that each attacker takes the appearance of one of them. So not only is it just like average people coming in to attack their home, they're being attacked by their doppelgangers. So there's like a sci-fi aspect to it as well, which I think is really cool. And I absolutely love the ending.
Okay.
So if anything else, you have to stick it out and see the ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Finishing on a big one. I really love it.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I think that would be interesting. My last movie was like really hard for me to choose just because finding 5 movies, I think all of us could probably just be like, that was not the easiest task. I'm going to pick a movie called A Knock at the Cabin. So it came out in 2023. It is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. That person, the director, also made like Signs and The Sixth Sense. So they're really into this kind of stuff. This movie has Batista in it. So, and then Rupert Grint, which is from Harry Potter, and then a bunch of other people. And then while vacationing, a girl and her parents are taken hostage by armed strangers who demand that the family make a choice to avert the apocalypse. It's actually based on a book by Paul Tremblay. And it has a 6.1 IMDb score. And I picked this because I thought it was a different take on the entire apocalyptic view of this. I don't want to share, obviously, the spoilers of what it really entails. But it's a very uncomfortable movie, in my opinion. It also is very sad in a lot of ways, just because you have to make a choice to do what you got to do. And it's a family dynamic of 2 husbands and their child. And it's just, I loved it. And I like most of the movies I've seen that has Batista in it. I enjoy. I just genuinely like him. And the way that they played this out, I can't give it away. So I think it's something that people should probably watch. It's just a unique take on the end of the world and why the end of the world is coming. And these people don't necessarily want to be there. They are forced to do this, and you get to watch these people just essentially fall apart. And I didn't know if it was going to be any good or not, but when I watched it, Nick watched it with me, and I really liked it. So I don't know if he ended up liking it, but I thought it was great. So
Batista was fucking amazing in that movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really
I liked
This is
it.
one that I never really was interested in seeing it, but Drew has watched it and liked it, and now you're giving it a ringing endorsement, so I might be swayed.
I don't think that it's marketed for itself properly. I think that's where the problem with it lies. It's like it looks like one thing, but then when you watch the movie, the depth of it and the understanding of what it actually is completely different. But if you find out about that in the plot by them telling you like they do some things, then it ruins the whole storyline. So you actually
the better.
Correct. So you have to just go in and be like, well, I like Batista. I think this might be cool to watch. The little girl, like we talk about kid actors and stuff in movies, and sometimes they're really good, like in The Conjuring, and then sometimes they're just really shitty and we don't like them, like in 13 Ghosts. So in this one, the little girl she's a really big actor in this, and she did phenomenal. I really liked her in this. So for being a little girl and having to have that much portrayal in the movie, I liked it. So yeah, I would say on what was it called? The Knock at the Cabin, the Knock at the Cabin. I always get that one and Cabin in the Woods mixed up. So I'm like, I don't want to say the wrong movie because they're both cabin movies. I was going to put both of them on this list, and I was like, I'm going to get them too mixed up. So
I've got
5 cabin movies.
Yeah, literally.
Welcome to the Cabin Cast.
Yeah. Okay. So those are mine.
What was I going to say? Yeah, the reason I wasn't like super stoked to watch it initially was just because I'm not crazy about M. Night Shyamalan stuff, because it's so much just about the twist. But even if you're like me in that sense, definitely this is one to check out. Like, he's had a few films that I have liked. I'm not saying all of his movies are bad. Like, I liked Split, and I liked The Sixth Sense. There's another one. I liked Unbreakable. Realistically, I just haven't seen Glass. The only movies of his that I liked previously were just in that universe. I didn't really care for anything else that he's done. Yeah. But this one was good. And like I said, Batista was really fucking good in it too.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. So I'm going to make a quick work of this. We're all going to have a little bit of honorable mentions. So not a lot of I don't know, grit to this, but just kind of shotgunning. I'm going to shotgun my 3 out there, and then we'll move on. So I'm not a huge television person, as most people would know, and everything. But my first thing is True Detective Season 1. Fucking amazing. Super dark detective stuff. It kind of leans into like some Lovecraftian stuff and everything. The first season's the best. Each season is its own story. Watch whatever you want. First one's got Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey in it, and it's fucking a masterclass, horror-esque. It's not like pure horror. It's more of a detective show, but fucking great. Also, next one would be, if you really like my taste in like fucking gloopy, weird fucking 80s horror films, and you love Reanimator, if you haven't seen From Beyond, it came out in 1986, stars a lot of the same people that were in Reanimator, directed by Stuart Gordon, the man who did Reanimator. It's his next Lovecraft story. Check that one out. And then if you want to see something that has still, to this day, ruined me as a person, check out the film Begotten. It's on YouTube. It came out in 1989. There's no dialogue in this film. If you want to see what is actually an art house film, this is it. The director of this later went on to direct music videos for Marilyn Manson in the 90s and stuff like that. Very gritty, very dark, very like horrifying. Like, it's pure nightmare fuel. You probably won't sit through the whole thing, but at least sit through the first 15 to 20 minutes of it and turn off the lights, turn it on, have it loud, and just let it fucking wash over you, and then sweet dreams. Enjoy yourself. Those are mine. True Detective Season 1, From Beyond from 1986, and then Begotten from 1989.
Okay. Cool.
I will go. So I had another found footage film, and it was a toss-up between Paranormal Activity and this one. And my honorable mention is The House is October Built. It's another found footage film. I love it. So it's this group of people trying to find like really hardcore haunted houses, which is something that actually exists. So this one feels, I think the first time I watched it, I had a hard time differentiating between whether or not it was real. Yes. It's so good. So it's just them kind of falling into horrific events based on them going to like this off the beaten path, supposedly haunted house. So check that one out. For a series that I really enjoy, still in the middle of it, but it's one that I have to take in small doses because it's so eerie. It's called The Patient, and it has Steve Carell in it. He plays a psychologist, and he gets essentially kidnapped by a serial killer. And at least that's where I am in it. So he's like a captive in this guy's basement. So you're watching that unfold. I think the only episodes I've seen so far are from his perspective, from Steve Carell's perspective, in the basement. That one's really good, but it's what I've seen so far is very heavy. So I can't. It's not one that I could binge watch at least. And then a book series. If you haven't read the Wayward Pines series, there's a TV show. Absolute garbage.
Okay.
Don't watch the show. Read the book series. It's a trilogy by Blake Crouch, who also wrote Dark Matter and a couple other books that I really like, but this is nothing like Dark Matter. It's a 3-parter. Part 1, it kind of follows your traditional trilogy where book 1 is building it up. Book 2, chaos ensues. Book 3 is kind of more chaos to a pretty tight conclusion. But that book series is my favorite horror book series I've ever read.
Wayward Pines.
Yeah. Okay. Funny thing, M. Night Shyamalan is the one responsible for the television series.
Absolute garbage. I tried watching it and couldn't. It's so bad.
That's funny. Okay, mine are all going to be TV show mentions because while Nick is obsessed with movies, I am a more TV show person. I just like getting into a meeting and getting like that relationship built with characters versus just spending an hour and a half with them.
Less story, more blood.
Yeah. And so my honorable mentions is, and I know I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again for those who haven't heard me talk about this before. Interview with the Vampire. So it's a series on AMC out right now. They are currently in season 2. Season 1 is it's based off Anne Rice's books, obviously. And there's a movie back in the day that was called Interview with the Vampire. And then also Queen of the Damned is also based in this world as well, which I love that movie. But I wasn't sure if I was going to like the show because I just wasn't sure if they were going to put in like as much effort into this and it was going to be as well made as it is. It's phenomenal. Like it is just a phenomenal show. It's just so well made. And I'm excited to start season 2 of it. So if you like vampires and you just go watch that. It was so good. Then the second one I'm going to recommend is called The Sandman. So this is horror-esque, I guess. Basically, it's the guy who creates the dreams and he gets kidnapped, and that's what the whole storyline is about. And it's a Netflix show. They're going to be coming out with season 2, and Nick and I actually watched this together. And this show is probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. It is phenomenally made. The acting is superb. It is very dark in a lot of ways. Emotionally, it definitely is a mind fuck in a lot of ways. I don't think that this is marketed as well as it should be, considering how good it is. It's like, Netflix throws out all these shows and movies, and they're always like, yeah, these are great. This isn't one of them that I've heard a ton of people talk about, but they should, because it is just so well made and so good. So yes, go watch The Sandman. And then the last one, if you like werewolves, I think I've talked about this before too. It's called Bitten. It's a series. I think it's 3. I think it's a book series by Kelly Armstrong that was then adapted into a TV show. It is kind of romancy, but it's not just that. And it's a werewolf show. And I absolutely loved it. The acting isn't the greatest of great, but I really liked it. I've rewatched this show at least twice. It's been out a couple years, but vampires and werewolves are always something I would always want to at least try, and then maybe like it, maybe not. And Bitten is just a show that I really enjoyed. It's easy to watch, and so those are my 3 TV show honorable mentions.
All right. So if you haven't found at least one thing out of today's episode to check out, that's kind of the point of this episode in a way. It's like we all have like vastly different tastes.
Yes.
Stuff like that, So, but hopefully that's helpful to some people. Maybe we'll do this some other time or whatever. Basically, any time that we have an extra Monday in a month, so more than 4. We will be doing a Gaiden episode. So okay. I think the next one's going to be like in September, and I've already got that squared away. But I'm not going to tell anybody what that is yet. You'll have to stick around and find out. But still giving out fucking homework for next week.
Yes.
We're actually going to hit. It's not a month because this is going to break up between July and August, and I'm not going to tell you what they all are or anything like that. But we're definitely going to be like on an interesting theme of films coming through. So like we're going to be touching on, your tropes of, for vampires, Frankensteins, monsters, witches, things of those natures, right? We haven't touched on a lot of that stuff. So I felt like, you know what, we're going to do that. So So for our next week's episode, we are going to cover John Carpenter's Vampires that came out in the 90s.
And Tasha's going to absolutely hate this movie.
I don't know.
Oh, great.
She might like it. She might like it. It's got some new metal riffs. She likes those.
I like 90s vampire movies. I like The Lost Boys.
I honestly think that she's going to like it more than you think she will.
I don't think so. I think she's going to be texting us going, what the fuck did you make us watch?
I don't know.
All right.
This was a Steph pick.
This is a me pick. I like this movie a lot, but it's different.
I have my original VHS copy of it behind me. So.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll watch it on that. We'll just have to.
There you go.
There we go.
Buy a VCR.
Yeah. Fine. Good luck finding one of those.
But I'll tell you girls what we're getting into. But you guys, you're gonna have to listen to the episodes to find out what's coming out.
Okay.
So next week, Vampires by John Carpenter.
Yes.
It says it's on Netflix.
Yes, it is.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Okay.
For Pod of the Dead, I am Nicholas.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Natasha.
Come back and listen to us, or else.